Hey everybody. Today I have some chord building tricks to share. I don't want to go too far into the theory of chords because this video would never end, but I do want to show a few simple tricks so everyone can get started with some catchy progressions. Now it's important to know that all major and minor keys both contain major and minor chords with one diminished chord. Here's an easy way to build them. Major chords go like this: skip 3, skip 2, minor chords go like this: skip 2, skip 3. This middle note here is the only difference between major and minor chords. Now diminished is skip 2, skip 2. It's just being diminished by one note. If at any point you forget this rule, you can always reference the white keys. Notice how I'm skipping one white key in between each finger. It goes this way the whole way up. And there's our diminished. Minor, major, and so on. If you're not too experienced with playing the piano but you still want to play in your chords, you can try using all white keys. This will put you in either A minor or C major depending on where you start. After you get your chords down, you can highlight everything using Command A for Command All, and then the Option arrow up or arrow down keys. This way you can change the key to anything you'd like. Now you can also play around with the transposer Midi effect. This way we can play in any key we want just using the white keys. Now this bottom part you can use to avoid hitting any wrong notes. I like to think of it as auto-tune for the piano. It just snaps any wrong note to the next closest note within your set key. So for example, let's choose D sharp, and we'll do major. Now I'm playing all white keys right now. But it's still snapping to all notes within D sharp major. Now your chord progressions don't always have to be ambient and in the background like a pad usually is. They can be played more up front and in a rhythmic pattern as well. I have a little rhythm in my head right now, so let's go ahead and play it in and see if it sounds good. Now notice I didn't hit record. If you hit Shift R, you can bring back what you just played. This is very useful for if you're jamming out and you don't remember what you played. Now I can highlight all with Command A. Hit Q to quantize. Now let's listen. Not bad. Now chord progressions will typically start on the root note of the key it's played in, but they don't have to, it's just more common. If it doesn't start on the root note, a lot of times it will end on the root note. This leads me to another tip I love, which is to keep in mind that you may want your chord progression to have an obvious turnaround. This basically means your beginning chords and the end chords are different from each other, so you can decipher the start and end of the progression. This is why chord progressions usually start with the root note of its key. I like to think of it as the progression telling its story, and it also sounds a bit less repetitive. Once again, this is situational and personal preference, but I notice this in a lot of popular and catchy progressions. One last thing I have for you is the bass notes just about always follow notes within the progression, and vice versa. Keeping this in mind, you can start with a simple bass melody first, and then play your progression along with the bass. And the reason this can be useful is because if you're not very familiar with chords yet, starting with bass may be easier, being that there aren't really chords in bass, just single notes. Let me show you a little example. Now this bass pattern I'm about to play in is going to follow the chords exactly. Highlight all and quantize. Now I'll turn it up a little so it's easier to hear. So I hope these tips help inspire some catchy chord progressions for everyone.